Welcome to a brand new Kansas City real estate market update. In this one, we're going to break down recent reports that introduce a massive shift to the entire metro area, especially impacting home prices here in Kansas City. It's all summed up by this political cartoon. You've got home buyers who have been intently waiting for mortgage rates to decrease and hopefully make buying a home a little bit more affordable, but it certainly doesn't come without risks or additional costs that we'll likely see here in Kansas City later in 2025. Now, we're going to break down both sides of that equation here at the end of this video, but I'd like to start with current mortgage rates. We've seen them decrease over the last several weeks. You can see in the month of May, you've got the 30-year conventional mortgage somewhere around 7.5%. That is down almost a whole percentage point to around 6.68%. This continued decline is fueled by the expectation that interest rates, the Federal Reserve, will continue to decrease them throughout the rest of this year. Now, according to a recent report from Axios, it says that the Federal Reserve is likely to cut rates this September, of course, which we know has a high correlation with mortgage rates decreasing, ideally making it a little bit more affordable to purchase a home. And we'll break down the flip side of that here at the end of the video. So this report says that the vast majority of Federal Reserve officials said the central bank would likely cut interest rates in September. Almost all officials said that the factors that have pushed inflation down will likely continue in coming months. That includes the slowing economy, consumer pushback on prices, and the minutes from that meeting shows that several policymakers said cutting rates too soon or too much could risk reversing progress on inflation. Because if they cut rates too quickly and too soon, it could take the rest of the economy down with it and put us right back where we were just a year ago. Now, all of that brings us to this article from Realtor.com, which says that decreasing interest rates will dramatically shift the housing market across the country. And before we get into all of the specifics in this article, if this is your first time seeing these videos, then welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Massa. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Kansas and Missouri. We make these videos about every single week, along with suburb spotlights, property tours, new construction communities. So I'd invite you to hit that subscribe button so you see these future videos. And of course, if you have any questions about buying, selling, or building a home here in Kansas City, I'd absolutely love the opportunity to work with you. So all of my contact information is all down below in the description. We can make everything we're about to discuss far more specific to you and really set you up for success. Now, back to the article from Realtor.com. If we scroll down a little bit, it mentions the Fed's probably going to decrease interest rates in September. It says when that happens, mortgage rates are likely to drop as well. It does note that roughly 86% of outstanding mortgages have a rate of 6% or less, which means that rates will have to continue going lower in order to fully re-energize the housing market. Now, this is an important piece of the puzzle. If we had a lot of supply, a lot of options to choose from on the market, lower rates wouldn't be that big of a deal. Yes, competition would go up, but prices would likely stabilize at some point. However, here in Kansas City, we've got quite a housing shortage. So when you've got limited supply, demand increases because it's now more affordable to purchase a home. It's just a recipe for disaster. Now, we're going to break all of that down here in just a second. We've got this graph that analyzes the supply of housing over the last six plus years or so. But going back to the Realtor.com article, it does point out that homes might not become affordable. So this is the flip side of that equation. Yes, there might be some relief in affordability from lower rates, but it also makes it more expensive on the backside. It says that Realtor.com expects list prices to rise 4.6% by the end of the year if lower mortgage rates spark more buyer demand, which we know for certain they would. Then prices might climb once again, eliminating the impact of lower rates. Kind of like a teeter-totter. When mortgage rates go down, home prices go up because there's so much demand for housing. If that happens, it puts us right back at square one, where we have runaway inflation in the housing market because home prices keep going up. And while some home buyers will benefit from this, you'll still have a lot of people on the sidelines waiting for this to happen, or you might see home prices on this temperature gauge instead. Now, back to the article, the last thing to point out is that they say this increased competition, you got more people in the housing market. Once rates drop, waived appraisals, short inspection timelines are also likely to make a comeback. And here's the very important part of this video. If you're buying a home here in Kansas City, it doesn't matter when you do it. If you have to compete against other home buyers who are willing to pay more, waive inspections, waive the appraisal, take more risks that you're not willing to do, it almost always means that you're going to end up with a worse deal. And that's why having more options and sidestepping a lot of competition is extremely important. So even though there's a benefit of lower rates, a lower monthly payment for the same exact house, you do have the cost of that, which is more competition, maybe having to pay a higher price on the front end. Now, this article does make an important point, which is that lower rates could cause more people to sell their home. I think it's unlikely to have a net positive effect here in Kansas City. And the sole reason why is if you look at this, all these numbers, 2024, we've got about 4,800 homes for sale. That's the total inventory right now. July in 2019, we had around 6,627. So we're still below where we were before the pandemic. However, this is the most amount of supply that we've seen since 2019. So you've got a good sign, but we're still not completely back to normal. Now, the reason that this is unlikely to be the case is because most people who are not selling their home right now because mortgage rates are too high are going to turn around and buy a home. So there's not a net increase in supply. They're just trading one home for another. Now, this article goes on to say that buyers will trade high rates for a more challenging market. This is kind of what we talked about when it comes to competition. We want to shield you from that competition as much as possible, sidestep it where we can, because they say once rates start to drop, there's going to be a trade-off for home buyers. You either get the lower rate or avoid competition. It says that increased competition will drive up the price of homes and make home buying process more stressful, difficult, essentially trading the frustration of having higher mortgage rates for the frustration of competing in a more challenging market. Potential buyers might once again be forced to consider risky moves like waiving a home inspection, adding an appraisal guarantee, and overbidding significantly to win a property. Now, this is certainly the pivotal decision to make. Do you wait until mortgage rates are as low as possible and risk facing more competition, potentially paying a higher price for that home that nullifies the benefit of waiting for lower rates? Or do you choose to buy a home a little bit sooner, knowing that rates are going to come down further, but that you're going to be able to sidestep a lot of competition, probably negotiate a better price for that home, you're going to be able to do your inspections, maybe win some repairs and concessions from the seller, as well as have that appraisal that protects you? That's the important question to answer. And we're going to break down the timeline on that here in just a second, but a quick disclaimer, timing the market is really not worth it when it comes to real estate. Nobody's got a crystal ball. And when it comes down to the numbers, the money that you're going to make by buying the right home is really the result of staying in it and holding that investment for 5 to 10 years. So the time of year isn't really going to matter in the long scheme of things, but it certainly will when it comes to competition. So if there's a way that you can time the market to sidestep a lot of competition, that directly controls your leverage when negotiating a deal with a potential home seller. So I've got this other article from Realtor.com, basically the time of year where it's most expensive to buy a home, where homes are selling for the maximum price throughout the rest of the year. This identifies it across the board, across the country, as sometime in April. In Kansas City, if we scroll down all the way to the bottom of the article, it mentions that this happens late March. So there very well could be a window of time where you get your cake, you get to eat it too, between right now and probably March, when that activity, that competition starts heating up. And then you'll find that prices are going to quickly start increasing at a pace that we're unfortunately familiar with over the last several years. That's all for this one. Let me know in the comments down below, would you rather get the lowest rate possible or sidestep as much competition and negotiate an even better deal? Leave your comment down below. Of course, if you have any questions, everybody's situation is different. I'd love to make all of this more specific to you. So if you're buying, building, or selling a home in Kansas City, whether it's next month or whether it's in the next couple years, feel free to reach out. I'd absolutely love to support you. All of my contact info is on the screen. Feel free to give me a phone call, text message, email, anytime, any day of the week. I absolutely love hearing from the viewers of these videos and of this channel. And before you go, make sure to click right here. It's a video about recent changes to buying or selling a home in Kansas City that everybody should know about, or you can click right here to see the video that YouTube thinks you'd enjoy the most. So click either here or here, and I'll see you on the other side.